Everybody enjoy your lunch? All right, everybody get a chance to meet some of the sponsors and vendors? Awesome. All right, so for those of you that are not part of the Note School community, yesterday we had what we call our appreciation event, where we have all of our students come in a day ahead of NoteExpo, and we give them some educational material, some topics that we covered. We covered things from flipping notes to recapitalizing your portfolio to the magic of creative financing. But the highlights is we also recognize our investors of the year, and we conduct our case study competition. So we had people submit case studies throughout the year, and then Eddie, Charles, and myself, our management team at Colonial and Note School, reviewed them and nominated 3 finalists, 3 in performing and 3 in non-performing distressed notes. And the cool part about that is once the finalists came up here and presented, the audience of their peers actually selected the winner. So as part of the recognition, not only did they win a cash prize and a trophy, they get to present their case studies today to the entire audience. So we're going to let them come up here and they're going to go through their case study that won this competition. And Eddie's going to kind of moderate that, and I'm going to kind of help keep the flow going. So I'd like to invite Eddie, along with our 2 winners, Justin Bogart and Al Curiel. Can you give me a hand? And Justin, guess what?
Yes, sir.
We get to start with you. All right, so if you want to grab one of those sticks. Al, you get to watch.
All right.
All right.
All right, so sort of our criteria for the case study competition is that we say this isn't just about making profit. This is about showing some innovation, showing some work through an issue, developing some process that's got a wrinkle or 2 in it. And so we thought both of these winners really did a great job of doing that. So our first winner is the one on the performing note side, and he did a great job of doing that because I've been on a big campaign saying we need to we really need to go find inexpensive passive money, right? This is my big mission. If everybody wants to know what makes Martha successful doing the partials, there's one single reason. She finds inexpensive passive money and finds a good deal she can sell them a partial to. And that's just basically the formula that we've pressed over and over and over. And we think Justin did an awesome job of that. You guys welcome Justin Bogart.
Thank you.
You bet.
Slides?
Huh?
Did you do slides?
Yeah, well, probably I did.
Eddie, you must have done the slides.
Yeah. Everybody knows I have dyslexia, and if I don't misspell something on a slide, it can't be right.
Can you hear me?
So,
Am I hot?
Oh, yeah.
you're hot.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Justin Bogart. Thanks for the 30 people that came back from lunch. Appreciate that. So, what happened here? Usually people enter in case studies, and by the way, thanks to all my peers for voting for me. I appreciate it. So I can get that cash prize of $3 million. Was that what it was?
New Cadillac.
New Cadillac. New Cadillac. So typically people enter in a case study and they enter in like one deal and one note. And I had something a little unique. And what I did was I found a private investor that was willing to give me money, and I was going to invest that money into notes. And so I have a meetup that I do, and I have a podcast that I do, and I network a lot, so I run into a lot of different passive investors. And some of them are looking for very large returns. Some of them are looking for modest returns. Some of them are looking just to have notes themselves. And this particular investor was just looking to have some passive money. They kind of, what do we call them, the HGTV buyer?
Mm-hmm.
And so do you want to explain what that is?
So I'm going to talk about this tomorrow morning when I do a presentation, but I'll steal a little bit of the thunder of it. So everybody understands the real estate wholesaling business has become really hot in about the last 4 or 5 years, right? That there's not near so many people that fix and flip, and that most of the people, the old fix and flippers, have now gone to a model where they just put a house under contract and wholesale it. They really flip their contract to another investor, but they call it wholesaling is the industry term. So who are they wholesaling to? Well, for all of our careers, Bob and I could look back, everybody wholesale to seasoned landlords or some seasoned guy in the business. But the catch was they wouldn't let them make a lot of money. Now, the guys that are wholesaling, you'll hear Brandon later this afternoon, average profit of $29,000 on 270 deals last year. Okay, so when you see a guy do a wholesaler, one of these ninjas I call them, they're selling to HGTV buyers. They're not selling to seasoned landlords. And so one of the things that you find out is, and this is what Justin and I had talked about a lot, is every wholesaler says 95% of my list never buys anything. 5% buy, 95% never buy. And so who's the 95%? And we always have kind of believed the 95% was the guy that wanted to be in the game, he just didn't want to do anything. He's willing to settle for a little less yield for a lot less aggravation. So we've been discussing this a lot, and Justin knew that, and I think Justin went straight out and did a great job of finding this, as I call it, the HGTV buyer who would normally be buying a wholesale house, and he provided you the private capital.
Absolutely. It was a great situation for me. What's good about being the smartest guy in the room, so to speak, is that you can dictate the terms, and that was really important about this deal, to where the investor knew what I was doing. I said I would buy and sell loans with, I borrowed the money like on a line of credit, $150,000 as you can see. So as you can tell, a private lender lent money to my company, and it's just on a promissory note, so I'm signing the promise to pay. I could buy and sell loans within this time period we had of 3 years, and as $150,000 at 6% interest only, I decided to do quarterly payments as the way I would repay the debt.
It's good.
So 12 months have gone by from last October to this October, and I've bought and resold 10 loans with this money so far. Okay, 1 was a partial, and 9 of them were full loans. So I kind of had a velocity model going there. So the arbitrage was the key too. So I was also collecting monthly payments when I wasn't selling these loans. Does that make sense? So it's kind of miniaturized fund.
Yeah.
One of the things that we thought was really interesting about this is most of the time when you find somebody who is going to borrow against their portfolio or hypothecate their loans, they already bought 10 loans and they're going to pledge them as collateral. Justin, through his negotiating, had this private lender lend him $150,000 on loans he was going to buy.
Right.
Okay,
The industry calls it a blind pool.
He really made the loan to Justin and Justin's company based on his confidence in Justin, right? Because he didn't know which loans Justin was going to buy with that $150,000, all right? And he had the ability to buy them, keep them, sell them, keep partials and that kind of stuff. So the magic to this deal was to convince somebody to give you money without really knowing what the collateral was going to be.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, Bob.
Absolutely.
All right, so the deal, I think there were several really strong points about Justin's deal, and that is what you're going to find is that people consistently will give you money, but they don't give you all of their money. They'll give you terms, but they don't give you all of their terms. So Justin is basically training this passive investor, because I would certainly think there's more than 150,000 there. And you kind of agreed to interest only, knowing that you got a balloon in the future. But guess what? You're buying and selling loans. You're not in a storm there. And we had a session even yesterday talking about don't get too enamored with worrying about matching terms, right? If you get an investor that even if you got to put a 5 to a 10-year balloon on the portfolio, that lets you go create a lot better quality loans over that period of time, and it gives you plenty of time to go move them downstream and go do something else with them. So the thing is I really like about this is obviously he let you go be the funding source. You're not needing to flip them. There's less aggravation.
Exactly.
And also you're the guy with the money. And believe me, I've been around this space long enough to know there's a lot of difference between being a broker and being a guy with the money. Right, and so you're the guy that funded them, and one of them let you keep residual income because you chose to do a partial, so you didn't cash all of the check you could have up front.
One thing I wanted to have you explain too is on the previous slide we talked about arbitrage on the payments. I want to make sure everybody kind of follows what we're doing here. We didn't total up the P&I column, but let's just say I think it comes to about $5,000 on these 10 loans. Okay, does everybody remember the terms of the loan? Interest only, 6%, quarterly payments of $2,250. How much money is he collecting in 3 months? $15,000, right? $5,000. Out of that, he has to pay his debt service of $2,250. The arbitrage is the difference, right? So that's math skills. What was that?
That's a couple $1,000s.
It's a lot, right? There you go. All right.
Yeah, so there's no question. And of course, when we're showing the profit on this deal, part of it is we're really talking about what you bought them for and you sold them for. And,
Right.
and on top of that, you earned a payment arbitrage. If you had $15,000 coming in a month and your debt service, $2,200 divided by 3 or whatever that number is going to be about $800 a month, $700 a month.
Right.
Then all of a sudden it becomes pretty clear that you had a pretty significant arbitrage every month in just cash flow.
Yeah, so you can have two things. You have your cash and your cash flow too. By buying and reselling loans, I could recapture because of the discount that I had as well.
Yeah. So we have made this a big part of what we've added, really pushing guys out there to go do in the market. And Justin really just did a great job. And I don't know that he got every detail from us, but he took a concept and ran with it.
Yep.
In fact, I think it's really cool because he never even really told me about it doing this. And so all of a sudden we get a case study and I'm like, well, Justin's been busy this year. He just didn't tell me anything about it.
Because I was borrowing the money from Bob.
All right, so real quick, let's go through the math here. Your gross profit, what is that made up of?
That's the arbitrage and the difference of flipping loans. The
Okay.
debt service is 12 months of debt service owed to the investor.
Right.
Net profit becomes 22, and the partial is the future income I would receive of that partial.
Right. So all in on that total profit
57.7.
in 12-month period, right?
Yeah, and I still got 2 years left with the money. So
That's great.
And
See
you're,
what more
you're
damage I can do.
continuously doing this over the next 24 months.
correct.
So it's going to continue to grow. Same strategy, sell some full, maybe keep a partial here and there and go from there.
Definitely, yes.
Yep.
Awesome. What do you guys think of that? How many people would like to meet Justin's private investor? All right? Huh? Who can find somebody to give you money at 6% and sit back and let you do what you want to with it for 3 years? All right. All right, so we also have a distress note category, Eddie.
We did. And we really don't influence the winner. I want to really tell you that. We pick the finalist, and from there, and the way we present it to the Note School audience is they vote, and we don't try to have any sway one way or another. By the way, just so you know, Justin overwhelmingly won the performing note vote, and Al overwhelmingly won the non-performing note vote. And it wasn't because so much of profit, because this is, well, you may need a Kleenex when we get done telling you this story. So you bought an asset.
Uh-huh.
And what did they say? Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo, Arkansas?
Yeah.
I said, you know where Little Rock is? He goes, yes, it's nowhere near there. Anyway, so I picked up this non-performing asset. It was a challenge because somehow the data that I got from the hedge fund that I bought it from did not match that description. And being the commercial insurance geek that I am, I wanted to get my investigative skills to the test. So I called the fire department in the city of Waldo after I found it, and I said, would you do me a favor, and would you take a look at this address and see where the house is? Because the house that I have on the picture does not match the description. The guy was very nice, very cordial, says, right, I'll get right on it. The guy drove by, sent me the second picture, which is that. That's a house. It's a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and it had been severely distressed. The market value was $36,000. That the outstanding loan was $90,000. I proceeded to foreclose on the thing, and after all the filings were done and registered, I got a call from none other than the mayor of the city of Waldo, telling me that the fire chief had told her that I was a new owner of the asset. And in no uncertain terms, she had just been elected the mayor, and her platform was she's not going to have an eyesore on her watch.
No blighted properties.
No.
All right, so before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the numbers here. So the note you bought was a non-performing note, right?
$90,000. It was paying 7.125 for 30 years at 638.78.
But really, you could eliminate the bottom three lines because it wasn't paying, right?
I wasn't paying at all. The guy was gone. He checked out. He moved from Waldo. I found him someplace in Dallas.
All right, so if you know how the non-performing business works, there's really two bars that you price from, right? You price as a percentage of loan balance unless the property is worth less than the loan balance. And then you price as a percentage of the collateral value. Think in terms of a pawn shop. So he, in this case, used his pricing model to be 36% of not the loan balance, but 36% of the BPO, broker price opinion value, and that's how you come up with $13,000.
Correct. Which, remember, it was done on the wrong house. So I got lucky. I ended up paying 13 grand for this asset.
So the mayor calls you, and she says, I got elected in a no blighted property campaign platform, and you're a problem to me.
Yep. Number one, you live in Chicago, which I do. You haven't seen the asset, which I hadn't, and you don't have a buyer. I don't know what you're going to intend to do with this, but you're not going to trash it. You're going to clean it up. I said, you're right. I own it, but I'm going to work with you. If you work with me, I'll work with you. And she said, okay, great. I was doing my due diligence again, and I was trying to get all the vendors that we know and we have in our disposal to go out there and do a BPO and clean up the place and do everything else. I couldn't find a single one who could do that.
Nobody could get to Waldo, Arkansas.
They didn't know where it was, Eddie, let alone willing to work. So I got, in the move of desperation, I decided to call up the mayor. She picked up the phone. And I said, this is so-and-so. Listen, I'm having a heck of a time finding vendors that will clean up the place and make it right. And I think she listened to the timbre in my voice, that I was sincere. This has stopped being about the money. The money is nice, but the money is of tertiary concern to me at this point, because now I have to work with somebody. And she gave me the chance to work on this at a political level and personal level. So she says, okay, I am going to help you clean this place up, clean the weeds, cut the grass, and we'll go from there for 150 bucks. I said, rock and roll. 2 weeks later,
let that sink in. How many people have used a property preservation company and had a $150 quote?
Doesn't happen, right? Happens in Waldo. So she calls me back. She sends a video of what they did, and she says,
well, make sure they know who did it.
Oh, the city workers. The city workers did, and I wanted to throw some what do you call it, gift cards for lunch. She wouldn't accept them. But she sent me a bill for 150 bucks. She faxed me the bill for 150 bucks. I promptly paid it. She filmed it, and then she also showed me that not only had they weeded the property, cut the grass, but she power washed the facade of that house. What you saw was a clean facade. Power washed it.
We figured Al was a pretty good talker when we heard this part of the story. I mean, you got to be pretty skilled to pull this off.
I mean, just think, a guy from Chicago talking to the mayor of Waldo, Arkansas,
Patricia
convincing
Glover
her
is
to
her
use
name.
city
That name's-
employees to clean up his house.
You can't make this up, right?
You can't make this
Make
up.
this up.
All right, but you still had a problem.
The problem is I had an idle asset. It was cleaned up. I had the deed. I had everything. But now I had to find a buyer. And I looked in our network, and I said, anybody interested in it? I said, no calls. Everybody kind of gave me the Heisman. I don't want it. I don't want it. 2 days later, not 48 hours later, I got a call from Ms. Glover saying,
This is
Mr.
the
Curio,
mayor.
This is the mayor, Mr. Curio. This is Patricia. Now it's Patricia. It's no longer Ms. Glover. What are you going to do with the property? I said, I'm looking for a buyer. She says, I think I have a buyer for you. And I said, okay, well, tell me more. She goes, well, and this is where it gets a little emotional, because the person that is qualified for this, or allegedly unqualified, is a single mother. She's 43, single mother, 2 teenage boys, 15 and 16. The mayor knows her because the mayor knows everything that goes on in that neighborhood, in that town. She had been abused by a horrible husband. She had been looking to get out of that situation, but she couldn't afford anything because A, there were no rental properties in that city, and she was chained. She didn't have a way out. And the mayor, trying to do the right thing, wanted to help her. And that's when I said to you guys, at some juncture, you have to do the right thing. And I said, okay, well, let's get her qualified. She goes, thank you very much, blah, blah, blah.
So you sent it to an RMLO.
I sent to the RMLO, who said she's got a 500 plus, does it matter? It doesn't matter anymore. 500, and she doesn't, Al, I don't know, you shouldn't sell it to her.
She didn't have good credit.
She didn't have good credit. But she was a phlebotomist working at the local hospital, so I knew, and she'd been there for a while, so I knew that there was some stable work history, and she was always going to have a job working at the hospital. So I said, you know what? Here I stand. I'm an immigrant. I'm vertically challenged, and I talk funny. This is America. If I turn my back on this lady, that's un-American, and I'm not about to do that. So against everyone's advice, I let my gut, my logic, and my emotions get the better of me, so we sold her the house. The good feeling about this story is that she has now paid on time, on the first of the month, for 11 straight months, and the mayor called me to congratulate me. And on Christmas, last Christmas, the borrower sent me not a pie, a pound cake, Federal Express. It was all crumbly and everything, but it was a gesture, right? So the numbers look like this. At the end of the day, I sold the property for $48,500 with a downstroke of $4,000 for a complete loan amount of $44,500, charging her 9.9 interest over 30 years at $398.24.
And she's got a $400 house payment, and she ain't going to live any. And by the way, and I've done a lot of business in little towns. Them not having any rentals is common. It's a common problem in really small towns, and so she lives for $400 a month. Now she's got the taxes and insurance, but she's not going to live anywhere else for that.
Mm-hmm. The note cost me 13 plus closing costs, foreclosure, whatever, was 18. Down payment and payments so far $83.80, with a total of $138 for a total profit of $129,232. That's it.
Now, Al, we only need one thing.
Yes, sir.
If we could get this one thing, I would say we probably could complete this circle. We need somebody with an iPhone that has video on it to go to Waldo, Arkansas, and get this lady's story, because we need this story in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, the mayor will do it.
Yeah.
I'll get it done. I'll get it done.
Because this is what Washington, D.C. needs to hear. And it's the
That's
truth.
right.
And it's absolutely the truth. And so you have an option at this point, and that is your next steps, and obviously you could sell a partial.
I'm going to let it season for another 3 or 4 months, and
Yeah.
I'm working with Joel Account, and maybe we'll go on a partial. He'll go in on it with me.
Good.
So.
So that's how it works. You find a problem, you solve a problem, it's rinse and repeat, right? I think Al did a terrific job of being the personality that he did and a man of a heart. And I think the mayor felt that, and he didn't run from the problem. We deal with the code enforcement issues is one of the questions that we have around Note School all the time. And we always tell them, don't avoid them, don't avoid them, don't avoid them. Call them, let them know you're real, just have a conversation with them. And that's exactly what he did, and I think it turned out, I think the profit is secondary, but congratulations on the profit.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Good job. Yeah. So yeah, one of the things we really liked about this when we reviewed it to make it one of the finalists, and obviously the audience thought it was an awesome deal as well, was just the way that we always talk about managing your vendors, but sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves, right? I mean, you called the fire department, right? Okay. now maybe if you called the NY Fire Department, maybe it wouldn't be as receptive because obviously they have a lot more territory to cover. But you call the fire department in Waldo, Arkansas, which probably consists of 2 or 3 people, right? You talk to the mayor, who pretty much, like you said, knows everybody in town, knows everybody's story, right? And they use not only their connections, but their employees to clean up the place.
Well, what impressed me was the sense of community because it was so small and everyone knew it. So everyone rallied around this lady. I wasn't going to be the one man out, so it was the right thing to do.
Well, and I think the fact that they knew her had a lot to do with you could take a chance on her because you could clearly see they believed in her.
Sure.
They knew that she was in a bad situation. She wasn't a bad person.
Without question.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, Eddie, you find people that are looking for non-performing loans or whatever, but they look up, they do a little bit of a Google search, and they say it's in a rural area of Arkansas, and they're like, oh, I can't do a deal there. I'll never be able to do it. And there was a low entry point at $13,000,
Yeah.
right? And you worked your way out of it. And not only that, but you paid it forward. And
That's what it's all about.
I thought it was an awesome deal. One more time for Justin and Al. All right, guys. Appreciate it.